What's up, everybody?
Hey, peoples.
It,
Happy Sunday.
yeah, happy Sunday.
Happy first day of May.
It's May. That's crazy. First of all, let's talk about the craziness of
That's
that.
great.
It is great because we're coming into a good season. Part of the year that I like the most,
Yeah.
with it being getting warmer and all of that kind of stuff. And so, what just happened? Oh, I don't know. Something happened here, but I guess it didn't happen there. Anyway,
Getting warmer.
getting warmer and more sunshine. Yesterday we were able to get outside and it was just kind of cool. So yeah, I guess that's a good thing. I was saying it's crazy just because we're almost halfway through a year that I feel like just started like 3 weeks
Yes,
ago.
it has been flying by, that's for sure.
So that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. Anyway, we got a show to do today. We got a couple things we want to talk about. Um, Included in those is you saw in the description, marrying your wife's sister. What's that all about? Uh, and There's some other things we want to talk about as well, reconnection and spending time and that kind of thing. So, you know what? Let's get into it. We're going to talk about all of those things and more on this episode of
Inside the relationship.
Let's Go.
Let's go.
You're watching Inside the Relationship with Denise and Ollie.
So sit back, relax, and let's talk about all things relationships. Yep. Inside the relationship.
Hello,
Welcome
everybody.
to another episode of Inside the Relationship. Listen, if you haven't seen any of the other episodes, go check them out.
Check them out. They're really good.
They've been good. They've been good episodes. We had some good conversation, provided some good nuggets in areas that will help you to enrich your relationship right then and there. If you happen to be watching with us live, go ahead and let us know that you're here with us. If you're watching via replay, let us know that you're watching via replay. We are going to get into this show. Was talking about the weather right before we did the intro, and just how the weather is so nice, or it was nice yesterday.
Yeah.
We're able to get out and do some things that that we like to do as it relates to reconnecting. Put something on Instagram and on TikTok about our recipe for the day, and what was our recipe for rest, relaxation, reconnection, and recharge. So
Some of the ingredients you that was on your own. Some of the ingredients was not in my plate. On my plate. That's good. Yeah.
like, which one?
Ozark.
Ozark was
Yeah,
not
I
on
don't
your
watch
plate. Yeah,
Ozark.
that's true. You did something. You were there, but you were just there with me.
Yeah.
Right, because Ozark is not yours.
So same ingredients, different
That's
plates.
not your kind. That's not your kind of show.
No.
Although it is a great show for those Ozark fans out there. Shout out to you for the Ozark fans out there. So, but yeah, what I was really getting to with that is, and this will come up later, but what I was getting to is this: you have to have this is a freebie. You have to have a blueprint, a recipe, a plan, whatever you want to call it, for reconnection, for recharge, for de-stress, whatever those things are. You need to have a consistent recipe or series of recipes that are go-to recipes for you.
Game plan.
Yep, for you to do that. So just wanted to throw that out there. That's a freebie. That's a freebie. So with that, we're gonna get into the media mixdown. Let's go. So the media mixdown.
What's that?
Media mixdown is interesting today, and let me give a disclaimer. Man, I feel like I need to sneeze. Let me give a disclaimer. There are some cultural implications to this,
Yes.
right? So we're gonna sit those aside just for the shock value of the story.
Okay.
Right. So we're gonna sit the cultural implications aside. But here is the story. I read a story about a couple in India.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting married. And during the ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
which is tragic, during the ceremony, the bride essentially passes out and dies from a heart attack
Oh.
during the ceremony. Falls out, dies from a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you trying to stop the show,
I'm
Elizabeth?
sorry. I was getting something off your shirt and then sorry. Go ahead.
So then here's what happens next. So when we think, okay, somebody dies in a ceremony, you think, wow, the whole marriage is upended,
Yeah.
hospital, ambulance, coroner, all of that, right? That's what I'm thinking is following the next part of this story.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next after she has a heart attack is that her family puts her in another room
Mm.
and the groom marries the dead girl's sister
Yeah.
right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? I was- that that is not that is not where I saw the story going.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can't get past, even though you said to set it aside, I guess I can't get past the whole it's a culture thing. Arranged marriage
it
sounds
is.
like. But can you imagine? Well, no, I can't imagine.
I can't imagine it.
I can't
and that was the
imagine.
thing that for me, and you know, if you've watched the show, a lot of all of our media mix downs up until this one have been media mix downs that we could have some kind of enriching kind of conversation around.
Right.
This one just struck me like I was just not prepared for that.
Yeah.
Even with the cultural implications. So here are the cultural implications if you missed the beginning. This marriage took place in India.
Yeah.
So the assumption is that it was arranged, it was prearranged.
The family thing.
Right. And so as a result of it being prearranged, the family has to now follow through.
Mm-hmm.
But the original daughter, is now deceased.
Yeah.
So they literally, again, like I'm thinking, wow, that's sad. I'm reading what happens next. I'm thinking, well, man, what did the guy do? What did the family do? They went, I'm thinking about all of those things that would happen when somebody dies. That is
Yeah.
not what happened.
It kind of reminds me of, even though it's reversed, it kind of reminds me of the story what happened in the Bible with Boaz and him being the kinsman redeemer. It reminds me of that,
okay.
even though it wasn't the
It's flipped.
Yeah, it's flipped. Same thing, cultural thing, keep it in the family type thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Over here in our Western culture, we just can't imagine that.
Yeah, and so I'm glad you said that, because
Yeah.
that's where I was going,
Mhm.
right? So for those who didn't hear the beginning, what happens next after the woman dies is that they remove the woman from the ceremony that died. They put her in another room. The groom now goes through with the wedding, but marries the potential bride that died, marries her sister.
Can you imagine the sister like, what? Wait a minute. I ain't signed up for this. I was not supposed to be the one.
Listen, fam. I was like, what?
I'm not supposed to be the one doing this. I didn't sign. At least let me get ready. Can I prepare my mind? Can I get my mind right first?
So
that's
right.
And
so
then the I don't know, thinking too much into it, but then the parents of the deceased almost bride to be, like, can they mourn the loss of their daughter?
And that's the thing, right? So the article did have some quotes, like, because there was another sister there as well. So the article did have some quotes from the other sister, just saying, just talking about the irony, I guess, if you want to call it, of wow, one of my sisters just passed. She's in the next room.
Right.
My other sister is now marrying this guy.
Right.
Right. So Yeah, it's wild, and yeah, there are the cultural implications, absolutely. So I
Definitely.
understand it from that point.
Definitely.
Jojo said, "How did I know you're going to say India?" Yeah, it's and that's
Yeah,
part of the
culture.
culture, right? And so, but think about it in the United States, because you talked about Western culture. Can you imagine
Mm,
you and I are going to get married? As you're walking down the aisle, you have a heart attack,
mhm.
and Nanny grabs Esther.
Esther.
And it's like,
Biblical
okay,
character.
okay.
Follow
You,
through on this.
right.
We need the money.
Listen,
Follow
man,
through on this.
I was floored when I read that
Yeah,
story. I was
that's.
like, that is wild.
But you
Like,
know, sometimes in that culture too, and I don't know how often that happens today, but sometimes in that culture, a lot of times that is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason,
mhm,
why they have children in the first place. Like we want to
mm,
better our family and our legacy.
yeah,
And, this family has money, so you're going to marry him type thing. So,
yeah. And had I read the story long enough in advance, there's a coach, a relationship coach, really great relationship coach in India that I met a couple months ago. I would have tried to get her, although the time difference is crazy. I think it's like 5 in the
you
morning
would have
right now
tried to get
there.
her on the
I
show.
would have tried, yeah, because I would have loved to hear, just some more comprehensive perspective on that, because that story just blew me away. I was like, I can't even imagine. Like, you think about the guests, you think about the family
Right.
of the girl, you think about the guy who had already made up in his mind, man, this is who I'm marrying, and
Right.
then, just minutes later is like somebody different.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting, man. And so that's the media mix down. It's not a whole lot to pick apart there. It was just something that just stood out to me that I thought was interesting. Listen, that I don't see that going down in America.
No, definitely not.
I just now I don't put it past happening in America, because there's some craziness happens in America, but
Mm.
that was just interesting. And not even so, and I think what stuck out to me the most was that they didn't even like do anything about the dead girl.
Yeah.
Because like you would think they'd be like, okay, let's call the ambulance, let's do all the whatever they do, let's
Yeah.
do all that stuff first, and then 2 weeks down the road, okay, let's do this again with the
They
sister.
didn't want the groom to bail. They're like, we got to
That's the
get him
thing that,
married.
yeah, that's the thing that got me. They put her in another
So.
room
Mhm.
and was like, somebody get married today. Like, that was incredible to
wow.
me, man. I just couldn't believe that.
It's for like again, us with the Western culture, we can't. It's so unfathomable to us.
Hmm.
But in other cultures, they probably
It's
didn't
not
even
right.
blink
They didn't even blink.
twice.
Yeah.
They didn't even blink twice about
and,
it.
and in the article, and of course the article's not gonna, you can't get every piece of context from the article, but the way the article was written, it did not convey like sadness and
Yeah.
grief and all of
Yeah.
these kinds of
Yeah.
things that you would think about when, can you imagine how
Shock.
traumatic that is to see somebody walking down the aisle and they fall down dead in the wedding?
Yeah. That's very sad.
Like, I'd be like, I'm good on weddings for at least another 10 years.
Very
Like, I'm
sad.
good. I'm not
Very
doing that
sad.
no more. And they just put her in another room and was like, hey, babe, come. It's your turn. Like, that was wild to me. Okay, that's it. That was the media mix down. For those of you who are watching, I don't know if you have any stories like that you've heard of, but if you want to share in the comments that you might be watching the replay, any kind of interesting, outlandish kind of marriage story that you've ever heard, that for me tops the cake. I've never heard anything like that ever.
Yeah.
That's devastating. I thought canceling my wedding hours before. Wow. See, so
Yeah.
that's a very close second. Yeah. So
Yep.
yeah, you're right. You're right. That was amazing when I read that. I was
Yeah.
like, literally could not believe what I was reading.
Right.
You know, not that they took her to the hospital, not that they buried her, and then 2 weeks later, nope, they literally put her in the next room and was like, "All right, come on, it's your turn now." Woo! It's interesting, man, and that just goes to show, like what you said. There's just some things that in our culture we just don't understand.
We don't understand it, and to other cultures, they're like,
It
what's not to
that is what it
understand?
is,
Yeah.
right? It is what it is, and it also bears it the lesson I guess I get out of this too is, and not to over lessonize this, but um we got to be more cognizant of that when we deal with people, that everybody doesn't approach things the same.
Different cultures,
And
different ideologies.
right, and what is 100% completely ridiculous to me is 100% the norm for somebody else.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the media mix down.
That's something to think about. For example, if that person, the husband or almost husband, were to immigrate to a Western,
Yeah,
you
true,
know, he
true.
would still be bringing that ideology. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And what if he found someone here to marry? His ideology would still be there. And those things sometimes is, couples don't talk
Yeah,
about that,
that's true.
you know?
Right, right. Because you're right. Joe said they don't marry for love like we do.
Exactly.
You're right, because you come to the Western culture, and you're marrying somebody who does have sisters,
Right.
and in your mind, you're like, well, if something happened to go down, then I got some other folk to choose from.
I mean, not even that. Even if you marry someone from a Western culture, there's other cultural things that happen in relation in families that don't happen in Western culture.
True.
And then you marry this person from the Western culture, and something comes up in your relationship or in your marriage,
Mhm.
and she's like, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about, or what are you
Yeah.
doing?"
Right. Right.
That's we don't do that.
Yeah. You're
Or
right.
that's not how I was raised, and he's like, "Well, that's how I was raised." You know what I'm saying?
Hence the need for some conversations ahead of
Right,
time. Yeah.
right. That's
Joseph
what
said
I
I have a
mean.
few Indian friends. Their mindset is very peculiar.
Very.
Here. Let me tell you this though. When I had a conversation with to speak to what Jojo just said, I had a conversation with her name is Ritika, the conversation with the coach. And what she was telling me is that, and obviously it's obviously the younger generation is looking at this a lot differently
Yes.
and is pushing back.
Yeah, they're becoming more westernized.
Yeah. She was telling me this in a conversation that we had, that the younger generation is very much similar to what we see here. You
Mhm.
know, the ladies are now being more empowered
Mhm.
in that culture. They're looking at their careers, they're looking at a
Right.
lot of these different
Yeah.
things, and it's changing with the 30 and under crowd.
Yes. Yep.
So
Definitely.
so
For
we may
sure.
see some things, and it didn't say how old this couple was. I'm gonna have to go back and see. But yeah, we may have to see. Um Interesting enough, their marriages last. Yeah, you're right. You're right. They do.
Mm.
They do.
Wow.
They do last longer. I agree with that. They do last longer.
No such thing as divorce. Yeah.
They stay together. So now let me do this before we keep going. For those of you who might not know what we're talking about, we're talking in the media mix down. We're talking about a story in India where the the man and woman were getting married. During the ceremony, the bride to be dies of a heart attack. In the ceremony, she
Mm.
dies of a heart attack. Now, what I would think would normally happen is that they would call in the coroner. The wedding would be done, and everybody would be devastated. No, that's not what happened here. What happened here is that they took that woman who passed out and put her in another room, and then called the sister and was like, "Hey, come, sister, you're gonna get married."
Mm.
So let me ask you this: switching gears before we go to the next part of this.
Okay.
In Western culture, is it off limits for me to marry your sister? Let's say, for example, not just death. Let's say it's this death, divorce, separation, whatever the case is. Are family members off limits? Here's where that's where we could take the question for the media mix down. Is your
I
family off limits?
To me, yeah.
Okay. Why?
It's just I just can't imagine it. It's just morally not right, in my opinion.
Okay. Just curious. I just curious. Um, Stacy said, yes, in my family it is off limits. I'm assuming
Yeah,
what
for
she's saying.
sure.
It is off limits. So if you divorce, you cannot marry your husband's brother, or you cannot marry your wife's sister. It's off limits. Okay, that's cool. Let us know what you think in the comments. I'm not gonna. I'm not here to give a right or wrong. I'm just curious, based on the media mixdown that we just talked about. What do people think about that as it
I
relates
think
to
most people would say that that's off limits.
family
That's
members being off
yeah.
limits? Okay, because now in Western culture, that's more prone to happen.
Yes.
Somebody was with the daughter and now they with the mother. I've seen that. Somebody was with the wife and now they're with the cousin. I've seen a scenario. I don't know if you remember. I'm not going to call any names, but when we were in Michigan, there was a scenario where the the two husbands were friends and the two wives were friends, and they end up switching.
Mm.
Both got divorced and both went with the other. So like me and Pat are friends and you and Nat are friends. We all get a divorce and now I'm not with Nat and you with Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of stuff happens in the United States. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. It's crazy. So Tanya said, in my family, it is off limits as well. It is husband and wife code. Husband and wife code.
Husband and
Okay.
wife code.
Sisters and friends and friends. Okay. Sisters and friends are off limits.
Agreed.
And likewise, I wouldn't date or marry my husband's friends or relatives. Friends.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I'll take that. All right. Well, that's the media mixdown. Thank you so much for those of you who gave your input. If you're watching this by the replay, please feel free to go ahead and give your comments on that. Give your comments on the media mixdown. It is cultural as well as based on country.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree with that. I agree with that. All right, so great media mixdown for today. Let's get into the question of the week. All right, here's a question of the week.
He works nights and I work days, so we never get to spend time together. Any time we have is divided between kids, chores, and sleeping. We need to reconnect and rekindle this flame. What do you suggest? Wow, we went through that.
We did.
Yeah, we
We
went through
did.
that.
We went through that for a little bit of time. I was working nights. You were working days.
Mhm.
From that experience came a phrase that, well, it's a common phrase, but a phrase that we adopted.
Mhm.
The whole two ships passing in the night
Yeah.
phrase. And that's something, and I'll get into it later, but that's something that I feel like couples should have some type of indicator that jolts you into
A siren.
right, knowing that things are. We'll talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
what do you have a suggestion?
I would suggest that some things just have to when I say fall by the wayside or go by the wayside, you just got to let some things go. As far as chores go, you know what I'm saying? Um maybe you can, if your kids are older, maybe you can delegate, or maybe you can set aside a chore
Mhm. Okay.
so that you can connect. And the thing is with connection, the thing with connection is a lot of times I think that we think that connection and spending time together has to be a long period of time in
Mhm.
order for it to be substantial.
Mhm.
And what we learned was that we'll take every few minutes that we can.
Yeah.
So set aside the chores of doing that load of laundry or washing the dishes. That's a 15-minute maybe, chore, 10 minutes, and take that time to connect, because you have to use every minute that you can, and you have to get creative in finding those minutes.
Mhm.
And that's what we had to do.
That's good.
In
I
the
like
beginning.
that phrase. Get creative. Get creative.
Yeah.
You have to get creative, and you're right. That some of the chores are going to be there.
Some of the chores are going to be there.
They're going to be there. Some of this stuff is going to be there.
Yeah.
You have to now prioritize,
Mhm.
and you have to categorize by level of importance.
That's right.
What things are important.
Yeah.
So if this reconnection and this rekindling the flame is high on your list, which it
Right.
should be,
Right.
that means everything else is going to come under that list.
Yeah.
And so now, as you begin to prioritize, then you have to now delegate, or you have to, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to create whatever the time, associate whatever time is needed for that thing based on its level of importance.
And sometimes if your kids are small, you're not going to be able to delegate, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things that are non-negotiables that just have to get done.
Right.
As far as taking care of the children or getting them to where they need to go. Some things are not going to be able to be taken off of the plate
Mm-hmm.
per se, but I bet you there are some things in the chores area, and understandably we need to rest, and that's vital.
Mm-hmm.
But can you wake up 5 minutes earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Can you
Mm-hmm.
can you hold off 5 minutes before you go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
and just connect in that way?
Yep.
5 minutes.
That's good. That's good. There are some, excuse me, there are some adjustments that are going to need to be made.
Adjustments.
Here's the next thing that we see with couples that we always have to try to change their perspective on.
Uh-huh.
Consistency and quantity don't mean the same thing.
Yeah, that's good.
So if I go on a date night, let's say in my mind, I should be connecting for 3 hours every day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
That's quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I can follow through with that, that's consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But consistency and quantity aren't the same thing. So you need to be consistently connecting, but that doesn't mean that the time is going to be the same.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the length of time is going to be the same.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the quote unquote quality, because I'm afraid to use that word because it's all quality.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the nature of your connection is always going to be the same.
Yeah.
So one day it might be 5 minutes and it's conversation, it's engaging conversation
Mm-hmm.
and embracing.
Mm-hmm.
One day it might be an hour
Mm-hmm.
over dinner and your favorite TV show.
Right.
One week it might be a weekend getaway.
Right.
One week it might be getting up, like you said, 5 minutes early,
Yeah.
and just so you can hug and kiss each other
Mm-hmm.
before you split ways.
Yeah.
Right. So consistency and quantity, don't get those two things mixed up.
Mm.
Consistency and quality are, you can put those in the same bucket, but you can't get upset if it's not an hour today and it's 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's not 5 minutes today, but it's some kind of gesture,
Yeah.
a note on the mirror, or, you coming in the shower while I'm showering to get ready for work, because that's the only time we're going to connect is for these few minutes that I'm in the shower, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
So you have to be very intentional about that. Like you said, which I love, you might have to let one of the chores go.
Yeah. You got to get creative.
The dish is going to be there when he or she leaves for work.
Right.
Do it then.
Yeah.
Right. Or the laundry, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing, that to go back to what I was saying in the beginning, you also have to, as a couple, you have to come up with, and we just had a couple do this recently. Man, we just had a couple do this recently where they had to come up with very concrete ways
Mm-hmm.
of gently reminding each other that this need for connection is there.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it was 2 ships.
Mm-hmm.
If either one of us said 2 ships, that was the jolting moment to be
That
like,
was
oh,
the bid for connection.
right. Like, oh, you know what? Yeah, we need to do something.
Yeah.
You need to have that, because what happens is sometimes we're not assertive in our communication in that area. And it doesn't come out until we're frustrated. And I think we said this in another show.
Mm-hmm.
When you wait until you're frustrated to now be assertive, it comes out as aggression.
Yes.
And you don't want that, because then that leads to conflict.
Right.
So you got to have a way of saying, babe, you know what? So to give you an example, to give you a real world example, because you guys already know me who watch the show. I went to my wife the other day and I said, babe, my skin needs to feel your skin.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I said. Now, she knowing me knows that that's some connection time that I'm looking for. And the week was funny for us last week. It was a lot going on, and it just whatever, right? It is what it is. Everybody has life moments, right? But you have to be able to let your spouse know. Now, I could have waited until I was frustrated, and that
Yeah.
would have come out way different.
Right.
And then you would have felt some kind of way about that,
Yeah.
which as you should. I mean, you're reacting to what happened. So
Mhm.
I think that's that's probably all that we can say about that. Obviously, if we knew some more details, we can give some very pointed
Right.
instruction about what you should do and when you should do it, and how to manage your time and that kind of thing. But we went through that.
Yeah,
I'm
you
telling
did.
you, we
You
went through
did.
that where literally what I was doing was coming home, and we were using one car at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was literally coming home, good morning, handing her the keys, goodbye,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
a
it was
long
rough.
time, right? Until we were like, wait a minute, we got to figure something out,
Mhm.
and that's sounds like that's the point where you're at right now, where
Yeah.
you got to figure something out. And so
Yeah.
now becomes the intentionality behind creating the space
Mhm.
and creating the time for connection, right?
Yeah.
So that is the question of the week this week. Listen, if you want to submit a question for us to tackle, you can submit your question by emailing us at admin@denali.org. You can email your questions there. We will pick the question. If we get a whole bunch of questions, we have to pick one, but we will, in some one of these inside the relationship episodes, tackle the
Yeah,
question
we'll talk about it.
that you email us. All right. So listen, let's keep going with the show. We have the marriage minute that is coming up next. But before we get into the marriage minute, it is time for our sponsorship slot. Those of you who follow us from week to week, you know that the sponsor is very special to us. This sponsor is indeed very special to us. So after a brief station identification, we'll get into the marriage minute. Yeah,
You got too much stuff over there, mister.
brief station identification. We'll get into the into the marriage minute. All right, all right. So
Yep,
that
yep, yep.
is a brief station identification break. Listen, if you are so inclined and you feel like, hey, you know what? We want to support these guys and get one of these t-shirts. You can go to pressandsoul.com/Denali. It is on the bottom of your screen. We both have on one of the t-shirts today, the 2020 Before Hindsight t-shirt. Very briefly, comes straight out of the book that I wrote called, I just lost it. I wrote the book and I just lost the title of the book.
Overcoming the man
Overcoming the
laws.
man laws. I don't know. It just left me right as I was about to say it. And the whole goal of that, right, is I'm living in hindsight. There's some things that I did wrong, some mistakes that I've made. And so I'm living in hindsight. And my goal with that book is to help individuals reach some level of clarity before they have to live in hindsight. So hence the t-shirt, 2020 Before Hindsight. You have on the Hey Girlfriend t-shirt. What's that about?
So the Hey Girlfriend t-shirt, there's different styles, but this is just one of the styles I'm wearing. It's just all about solidarity between women. There's a lot of these days, there's a lot of criticism, there's a lot of competition between women and stuff like that. And so this is just to show solidarity and support between women. Like, I see you doing good things. I see you in your business or whatever, even if you don't have a business. Sis, you look good today. You're wearing that outfit or whatever. Just more support and less competition between women, basically.
That's it. And there's some
Yeah.
other t-shirts. One of our favorites is the Marriage Math t-shirt, the 1+1=1. Go ahead and check that out. You can go to pressandsoul.com/Denali. Listen, when you get your shirt, take a picture
Take
of
a
it,
picture and send it to
tag
us.
us.
Yep.
Let us know that you got it.
Yep.
We appreciate you in advance. And for those of you who have already done it, because many people have, we thank you in advance for that. All right. So that is that. Let's get into the marriage minute for today. Let's do that. So in the marriage minute today, briefly, we're going to talk about this. And it is something based off of what you did a post not too long ago where you were saying that we need to I'm trying to think of the exact words you said, but we need to pay attention to what our spouse is not saying.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a second, and then I have something to say about that.
Yeah. So a lot of times, you may have something on your mind, something on your heart, and you don't talk about it with your spouse. It's something that's bothering you or something that you're concerned about, but you don't actually come right out and say it to your spouse, but instead you make little snide remarks, or you make little comments. For example, if you were to say to me, like when you said, I need to feel your skin touching my skin. If I had a need, but I wasn't voicing it to you, and I said something like, oh, you don't pay me enough attention anyway, or something like that. That's me showing you that I have a bid for connection, but not really coming right out and saying, I'm feeling a little bit neglected these days. And so pay attention. If I were to snap at you, I would need for you to pay attention, not to what I said, but why I said it.
Okay.
And that's basically what I was talking about, paying attention to what your spouse is not saying. Like, what is the reason why she snapped at me and said that? Like, what is underneath all of that? Why would she say something like that?
I like that. And
you might need to have a conversation about it.
Right, exactly. And now here's the thing. Let's put out this disclaimer. This is not a license or a green light for you to just be reckless with your spouse.
Absolutely not.
And be like, well, they need to figure it out. No.
Right.
No. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that there are going to be times, because we're human beings, that we do not articulate in a way that is conducive to great clarity.
Yes.
In those times, you have to be the bigger person. And we talked about, I think it was the last show. I can't remember I think it was the last Inside the Relationship. We were talking about foregoing your knee-jerk reaction and instead replacing that with an active listening response. Right. So you have to be cognizant of that. And it's not always if somebody's snapping, right?
Right.
It could be a very positive thing. There are times where last night, great example. Last night, I take one of the pillows from the couch. I put it over by you, and I'm like, I'm coming over here and lay it down. Right now, I didn't say, I just want to be close to you and, all of that. But what I did say was I threw the pillow over there and was like, I'm coming over here.
Right.
Now, she knows, because she knows me now. What I did not say was, I just want to be close to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. And we have to do a better job of gracing our partners in a way
that's good,
that allows for them to sometimes have those moments where it doesn't come out exactly in the exact word choice.
Because in not gracing our spouses, my reaction would be, well, why didn't you just say that in the first place?
Right.
And then from there, you're offended because I'm not being sensitive to what you're not saying.
Right.
And we never address the issue.
Yep. Jojo said, I agree with Denise. Cooking, exercising, watching a movie, show, going on errands, prepping for bedtime, get small doses of connecting. Yeah. So that was based on the question. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. and you got to get it in where you can get it in. And as you continue to do that, you get better at doing that.
Right.
Right. So, yeah. So with this marriage minute, just wanted to share that, listen, we have to start listening,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really that's an act
It
of
is. It
listening.
is. It is a
Right.
form of listening.
Being able to identify what's not being said,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to follow through in a way that doesn't lead to conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because here's the pushback. And we've gotten the pushback before. Well, they shouldn't be talking to me like that. Yeah,
Right.
you're right. You're
Right.
100%.
But are you going to hold that against them and then not resolve the issue effectively? You're just going to keep this
Right.
fire going.
Exactly. That's the question we always ask. Okay, what, and this is exactly how we ask it. What would you prefer?
Yeah. Yep.
So
Grace.
so listen, if you can push back on me all you want, but my question to you is going to be, what would you prefer?
Yeah.
Don't don't be reckless in return and then come back to me upset,
Yeah.
because you chose, that's what you chose.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's difficult.
It is difficult. I get it.
But grace, that's the whole
Mhm.
underlying thing. And we all need that, don't we? We all
We
need
all
that
need that.
because we're all human. And there's going to be times where we don't do the right thing.
Mhm.
There just are going to be those
There are
types of
going to be those
times.
times, and that's where grace is important. Now, here's the flip side of that, right? Because we talk about communication all the time, and we talk about the fact that one of the components of effective communication is negotiation. So once you have understood what it is I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
or what I did not say,
Mm-hmm.
then you have the opportunity now to be like, well, babe, okay, I see this is what you were actually wanting.
Right.
So just say this, and this next time.
Yeah.
Now we've bypassed some conflict and some rah rah rah, and just had a conversation about what's expected.
Yeah.
Right. And then we need to schedule time off on a monthly basis. Indeed.
Right. I was going to say that too.
Without a doubt.
I was going to say too, I'm assuming that you both have vacation time. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
You have to schedule that as well.
You do have to do that. Yep. And that's in reference to the question that was asked.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the marriage minute for today. Listen, part of being a partnership is being able to understand your partner.
Yep.
Part of understanding it's not all that understanding is not always going to be clear, crystal clear.
Yeah. Mm.
Sometimes it's going to be cloudy.
Yeah.
If I'm having a cloudy day, then everything is filtered through that cloud.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have to now be able to decipher, to recognize, and to respond in a way
Yep.
that gives your spouse some grace,
Mm-hmm.
also allows your spouse to feel, because here's the thing, if I come down on you when really what you were doing was trying to express something to me,
Yeah.
I now set it up so that you next time essentially could suppress,
Right.
and not only not say it correctly, but not say nothing.
Yep. 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 Because I don't want that reaction. I
Right.
don't want to have to go through that. So just never mind. Forget it. I'll just not say anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Which is
right.
not ever a good idea.
And when we're intentional and creative, it makes the time spent special and exciting. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Very true. So that's the marriage minute. Let's extend some more grace. Let's do a little bit more listening. And not just in the spaces where it's negative, in the spaces where it's positive, because it's not
Absolutely.
always negative, right? It's
Right.
not always me coming out reckless when I was really trying to say, I want you to say you love me. Sometimes it's just gestures, sometimes
Yeah.
it's body language, sometimes
Right.
it's facial
Yep.
expressions, sometimes it's different things. And we should be getting better at, you all know that we're proponents of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always going to push you to verbalize and get better at verbalizing in a more efficient and holistic way.
Yeah.
But we're human beings.
We're human beings.
And so the other side of that is what I did last night. which was picking up the pillow on the couch, throwing it beside my wife, and saying, I'm coming over there. And now that I'm thinking about it, what I was saying was, I just want to get close to you.
Yeah.
Right? Which I could have said, yes, but I didn't. So that's where the grace and the level of discernment comes in that allows you to be a little bit more, to listen a little bit more attentively and actively.
Yeah.
So that you hear what your spouse is not
saying.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's something you could take away and put in your tool belt this week. Start looking around and be like, and ask questions. Don't assume.
Yeah.
Because you could assume that what they're not saying is one thing and it may not be. So ask a clarifying question.
Right.
Forego your knee-jerk response. Use an active listening response, which is essentially asking them, hey, this is what I hear you saying. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
And then they can clarify.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, so we coming down to the end. This is it, man. Had a very eye-opening media mix down. If you missed it, you got to go back and check that one out, man. That blew me away. Great question of the week. And so let's get into the last segment. The last segment is the last word. So let's talk about what the last word is. All right. What we got for the last word today?
Last word. The last word is follow through.
Follow through.
Plain and simple, follow through. There's a lot of times where you have a situation in your relationship where, using us again as an example, just a scenario. If I came to you and said, babe, I really have noticed that, this area, you've been lacking a little bit, and I really need you to, pick up the slack, whatever it is.
Mhm.
I'm just asking a request of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. I need to get better at that. I'm going to do XYZ from now on.
Okay.
On Monday, I'll do this and I'll show that XYZ, blah, 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 whatever it is. And so then you do it for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a few weeks, you kind of stop doing it, or you're not doing it as consistently
Mm-hmm.
as when you first started. And so the last word being follow through, just meaning follow through and do what you said you were going to do. And if for some reason you can't fulfill what you said you were going to do, then have that conversation, but don't just stop doing
Let it go. Right.
Don't just let it go. Follow through, because that shows me that you are still that person of integrity. You are still putting the relationship, first. It shows that you care and that what I asked of you means something to you.
Mm-hmm.
And my request, and you're concerned about meeting my needs. And that's important. And when you don't, and you don't say anything as to why you're not, then I'm feeling like, oh, he doesn't even care about me, because he can't even, follow through with what I asked him to do.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
There may be a valid reason as to why you're not doing what you said you would do.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you're not saying anything to me, how would I know that?
True.
I just feel like you're neglecting my needs and don't care about them. So follow through.
Follow through. Wow, that's a good one. Follow through. And listen, I love what you said. If for some reason you can't, because again, we're human beings, right?
Yep.
So something may come up.
Right.
If you can't, say something.
Yeah.
Don't just let it go. Don't just have the other person wondering, wow, okay, this promise happened. This promise took place, but it never happened, right? Because what that does is that unweaves the fabric of trust.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, it sure does.
Trust is built off of building blocks. Those building blocks are consistency.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so if you are promising something, first, I would say this too, and I'm sure you would agree with me. Don't promise more than you can deliver.
Yes, definitely.
I would say, just like they would say in the business world, that you under promise and over deliver.
Yep.
As opposed to over promise and not follow through.
Yeah.
right? So that's great. Great last word. So last word
Mhm.
is to
Follow
follow
through.
through, man. That's good. So listen, that's our inside the relationship for this week. Those of you who are on Facebook right now, we love our Facebook family and we will always love our Facebook family, but we are growing our YouTube community and we want you to be over there with us too.
Yeah.
So please come over to youtube.com/Denali LLC and subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when we go live over there. You will also, when you go over there, see some other great shows that are over there. One of them is Have a Conversation After Dark. Last night's conversation was a real one. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. You have to go and watch it to check it out. But the whole premise of that show is to spark conversation, and sometimes about things that we don't normally talk about,
Right.
that are either taboo or tense or whatever you want to call them. So go ahead and check that out on our YouTube channel. And then every Wednesday, I missed last Wednesday, but I'll be back on it this Wednesday, is Coaching Chronicles. And it is exactly what you think it is. It is excerpts of actual coaching sessions. You get to see excerpts of actual coaching sessions. I usually take something out that I feel like is a nugget that can be used and can be utilized immediately. So head
And
over
you
to YouTube.
definitely don't see or hear the names of
Not at
who
all.
it is that's being coached, and you don't see them either. You
That's-
just hear.
You just hear me. Yep.
Yeah.
Or us if it's so far it's been me, but or us, depending on who's being coached. All right. So listen, that is another week of Inside the Relationship in the books. Listen, do us a favor. Share it with somebody.
Hmm.
Share it with somebody. If you got any kind of value out of this at all, share it with one other person. Say, hey man, check this out. I think this show is valuable. Let other folks know. Listen, we are here to just help couples communicate without frustration and judgment, to increase intimacy, and to build the relationship of their dreams.
Yeah.
And we just, those of you who follow us, you know us, right? You know that we're going to be honest, we're going to be real, we're going to be as authentic as we can be, with the goal being to encourage and inspire you on your marriage journey, right? So go ahead and share this with somebody, share the YouTube channel with somebody, because we want to get more people in here hanging out with us.
Hmm.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to say two things to you and then we're going to get out of here. The first thing is be intentional today about creating an experience that helps you to grow or increase your intimacy. And what's the second thing we got to
The
say?
second thing is, until your 1 + 1 is 1, you're never done.
Listen, with that, we out of here. Have a fantastic week and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.